Hello. For my video discussion, I chose Brownie Wise because I really think her story gives us an interesting way to look at the post-war American economy, especially from the perspective of women. Most people probably associate Tupperware with plastic containers or maybe the Tupperware parties their mothers or grandmothers attended, but Brownie Wise was largely responsible for turning those parties into a successful business model. Her story is also unusual because she didn't come from the kind of background we might expect from a major corporate executive. Christina Bax explains that Wise had only an 8th grade education, which is crazy to think how far she went in business, and no formal sales training. She was also a divorced mother who was just trying to support her son when she entered direct sales. Wise began selling Tupperware and quickly realized there was a problem with the product. Tupperware itself was innovative, of course, because we still use it today, but people didn't necessarily understand how to use it when they saw it sitting on a department store shelf. So she realized that someone needed to demonstrate it. She began selling through parties that were held in people's homes where women could actually see how the containers worked. Her sales became so successful that her home parties eventually outsold the department stores, and Earl Tupper brought her into the company. In 1951, she became Tupperware's vice president of marketing. This is where I think Wise's individual story begins to tell us something much larger about post-war America. Christina Bax places Wise's career within the changing world women faced after World War II. Millions of women had entered the workforce because they had to during the war, and many continued working afterward. By 1955, more than 20 million American women were working, even though there was still considerable social pressure for married women and mothers to remain focused on the home. Wise found a way to work within those expectations while also creating an economic opportunity that challenged them. Women didn't have to leave the domestic world completely to participate in her sales system. Instead, Wise essentially turned their homes into a place of business. We can see how significant that became in the primary source I found from 1957. That year, John Whitcomb wrote an article about Wise for Cosmopolitan called Sunshine Cinderella. The title itself is interesting because Wise was an extremely successful executive, yet she was still being presented to a largely female audience through this almost fairy tale image. The article described her as one of Florida's most dynamic young executives and connected her with about 20,000 Tupperware dealers and $100 million in business. The actual article also describes an overwhelmingly female sales organization and explains how women could earn money through parties held in their own homes. In other words, this wasn't just Brownie Wise becoming successful. She had developed a system that allowed thousands of other women to participate in the expanding consumer economy as sellers as well as consumers. So her name really fits her. The results were enormous. Bax notes that Tupperware sales grew from about 2 million in 1952 to 10 million by 1957. Wise's experience also connects with a scholarship we've read about post-war economic growth. Paul Romer emphasizes the importance of technological change when explaining economic growth rather than looking only at traditional factors like savings or education. Tupperware itself was a technological innovation, but Wise's story shows that inventing a new product wasn't necessarily enough. Someone still had to figure out how that innovation could become part of everyday American life. Wise did that by creating a new way to market it. Her story also fits the enormous growth in post-war consumer culture. Bax connects Tupperware's success with rising family incomes and the growth of suburbia, where new homes and new household products became part of the expanding consumer economy. At the same time, I don't think Wise's story should be viewed as a simple success story for women in business. She helped create tremendous value for Tupperware and became the public face of the company, but her position was never really secure. Her experience reminds us that women could find new economic opportunities in the post-war period while still facing real limitations within the corporate world. In the end, that is what makes Brownie Wise so interesting to me. Her story isn't just about selling plastic containers, although I do love them. It shows how post-war consumerism opened new economic spaces for women, even when those opportunities were still shaped by older ideas about gender and domestic life. Wise took something as ordinary as gathering in someone's living room and turned it into a part of a national business. In doing this, her career reflects both the opportunities and the contradictions women encountered in the changing post-war economic American economy. Thank you.